All right, we are here inside the Creator Studio with Rob Bentivegna of T60 Health Coaching and Health and Fitness. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Rob.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. I'm very, very excited to be here. And with all your success that you've had, it's amazing to see it. I've known you for a little while now, so it's really cool. Basically, born and raised Long Islander. Started my business of T60 Health, think about 7 years ago now. And just helping people reach their full potential in the fitness industry, their bodies. And I trickled into life coaching as well over the past year and a half. So that's been my biggest accomplishment over the past year and a half is life coaching. So
Okay.
it's really cool.
So tell me a little bit more about the life coaching.
Yeah. So inspiration for that really came from when I went to a Tony Robbins event. I've been to two of them now. And the one I went to was called Unleash the Power Within, also known as UPW. And I went to, that's a 4-day event, and I went to the last day of that one with, at the time, was my girlfriend, who is now my wife. And the last day of that event, they always tell you is the most powerful because you do something at the end of that. I'm going to do a little spoiler alert with your audience, but you do something at the end of that event that kind of, at first when I heard it, I was like, it doesn't really make sense. But long story short, you walk on hot coals, red hot coals, like right out of a fire. And you don't burn yourself. It's pretty trippy how it actually happens. But that was my first taste of like watching. Now, Tony Robbins created life coaching, more or less. He created the big industry of
The
what
brand
it is.
of it. Yeah.
So watching him coach people and seeing people that had, big problems to very, very basic problems, him being able to kind of break it down into it's not that big of a problem once you find the root and you can learn how to deal with it. So I really got a taste of what that was. And then we went to Date with Destiny, which is his biggest event that he does. That's a 5-day long retreat in West Palm Beach, Florida. That one changed my life. I say it all the time. I will say it till the day I die. If I did not go to that event, me and my wife would never have gotten married. Because every night of that event, it's a theme. So every night there's, like, for example, there's suicide night, there's a relationship night, and he does interventions with people in front of 5,000 people. He does these interventions one-on-one. And on relationship night, there was a couple that stood up and swear they had a yellow envelope and they had divorce papers in it. And they literally said that if we don't get our marriage under wraps by the end of this retreat, we're signing these before we leave. He spent 2 hours with them, completely broke it down. They were like back to being like honeymoon stage by the time he was done. And I looked at Alexa, my wife, and I said, that's what that's my next step. I already had T60. I was already doing training and nutrition. And I said, that's my next step is to break into people's hearts and their brains and pick it apart. And how, if you're feeling good on the outside, you got to feel good on the inside. Otherwise, they don't go together. And that was where it was like my inspiration to get into coaching. And I know I'm talking a lot. So,
No, that's not. That's I'm here to learn more about you. So that's really kind of like the main thing. So I mean, how have you been like either getting clients with that, or I mean, I know with that type of thing, especially because you're not doing the fitness thing with like through a video, like you're able to get clients across the country, as opposed to just like trying to find somebody in your local Facebook group or something like that. So now it opens up your ability to market to a whole different market.
Yeah. So with T60, with the training, that started as an online platform. I started that business during COVID. So my fitness and nutrition company really started online. So I still have a lot of my clients that are literally worldwide. I have clients in Australia. I have clients in Europe and Russia. Got clients all over and then I have the ones that are in the States. So that's where it started. And then with life coaching, it's the same concept where I can coach anybody in any time zone. So getting clients has really been social media presence is big and credibility. So that's what I was getting to next is people always ask me, first of all, what is life coaching? Because most people don't know what it is. It doesn't compute with a lot of people. So the biggest way that I define what life coaching is we're basically a therapist without the ability to diagnose you and give you medication. We don't believe in medications. We believe in finding the problem, digging through it, and then helping you deal with that on the outside without relying on an antidepressant, anti-anxiety, whatever. So, people always say that we're basically therapists, we're wannabe therapists, right? But the way that I look at it is I would rather you be able to have a problem and be able to cope with it on your own terms rather than having to turn to a drug to fix it, you know?
For sure.
So people always ask me, who taught you how to be a life coach? And I said, like, did you go to college for it? Whatever. Anybody, literally anybody could be a life coach. Anybody can. You don't need to go to college. I took an extra step and I got certified in. I took college courses, learned about psychology and things of that nature. But my biggest piece of credit is my coach. Mm-hmm. So my coach, met him through a mutual friend of Tony Robbins. And basically, I'll use you as an example because we're sitting here. You and your wife, you guys go to Date with Destiny. You guys are having issues with your marriage. Tony works with you guys one-on-one in the crowd with everybody. Mm-hmm. When he's done with you, he sends you to this guy who is now my coach. He's Tony's number one guy, or was Tony's number one guy.
Right.
He's on his own now. He's been on his own for a long time. Mm-hmm. But he was Tony's number one coach, and he's the guy who's grooming me to do what I do. Mm-hmm. So as far as, who taught me, I couldn't be in better hands as far as learning how to do the craft of life coaching. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how many clients have you kind of started with, or how many are you at to now?
Sure. So off the bat, it was very, very slow, as you can understand. You have to build up a reputation, have to get people to know what it is, what you do.
Right.
So started off very, very quickly. I had 2 right off the bat, young kids. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where my niche really sits, is with the youth, because let's face it, a 50-year-old married man or married woman is not going to come to me at 28 years old who's been married for just shy of 3 years for marriage advice.
Yeah.
So I've been more dealing with the youth. I've had a couple people that were a little bit older, but since I started, I'm up to 10 clients now. That's as awesome. Of last week. So, and then the fitness business is really, really busy, which is wonderful.
Fantastic.
So it gave me the opportunity to dive into something new without really having to take big of a risk financially.
Right.
So it all works out.
That's great. So now, like with the younger kids, especially, is it more of like, here's how you gear yourself for the next stage of life kind of thing, as opposed to just like winging it? And then like you're listening to your friends that are kind of deadbeats and like they're not going anywhere, but you have ambitions and desires to like move to that next level. And maybe it's college, maybe it's not. Maybe it's blue collar work. Maybe it's something where it's like, oh, maybe I want to do my own thing, and trying to help them through that sort of.
You nailed it on the head. Like I always, like when I tell kids, when I deal with them, is I was in your shoes. 9 out of the 10 kids that I talk to on a daily basis have the same mindset. They don't know what they want to do. They're lost. Mom and dad want them to go to college. They do or don't want to go. Literally what you just said. Mm-hmm. And I tell them, I was there. Yeah. I made the mistake, not necessarily a mistake, but I went away to school.
Got the learning experience.
I got 2 degrees. But I did the college thing. I went away. It was a very, very expensive party is what I call it. And I'm still paying for it. And every time I send that check, I want to kick myself in the face, because I should have thought about it more and just didn't. I got obsessed with being on my own and going on that freedom that all of us chase at some point in our life.
100%.
And these kids, a lot of them, they have these ambitions, they have these goals, but mom and dad want them to do this, but they're too afraid to say, but I want to do this.
Right.
So I tell them, you have to have your own voice. Yeah. And you have to compromise. You have to do things for you, because at the end of the day, it's your life. You have to be comfortable with the decisions that you make.
Yep.
And that's just, and I just love watching the youth see what they want to do, and they put it in front of their faces, and you just see that fire of, okay, I know what I got to do. Now how do I do it? And I help you with that too.
Right. And everybody has that potential.
Absolutely.
There's no like, you have to be a certain way, or you have to think a certain way in order to like get to that point. Everybody has that within them.
Absolutely.
If you just flip that switch of like, I'm done living the way that I'm living, I'm done going down this path, it's time to go down this other path.
Fear kills most of it.
100%.
The fear of failure is the number one killer of all dreams.
Yep.
I teach it, I preach it. It's the 3F rule. It's fear, fight, or failure. You're afraid of failure, but you're also really, really afraid to turn your back on the potential of what you could be.
Yep.
I have so many people in my life, close relatives, that have a list of regrets.
Yeah.
Of, I wish I would have done this. Now it's never too late to start, but when you're 65 years old, it's a little late to get started.
Yeah. It's a little bit tougher.
It's a little bit tougher.
It's not necessarily late. It's just harder.
Absolutely.
Because you don't have as much time as somebody else does.
And like, look at us. Like, you're a father with kids. I'm a father. I have one boy right now. I have another one on the way.
Yeah.
And, getting started with something new when you have those outside influences, it's hard.
Yep.
It's time consuming. It's a sacrifice. It's late nights, which I'm sure you know all about. You know, and when you're young and you don't have those things, that is the time that you need to tackle what you're looking for out of your life, because you have nothing but time.
Definitely.
To do that.
And like, you just have that advantage, you know, you have time and you have energy.
Yes.
There's like that graph of like time, energy, and money, you know, like you have time and energy, but you have no money.
Right.
And then like when you get a little bit older, you have a little bit less time, a little bit less energy, and a little bit of money. It's like kind of like in the mid rung. And then once you get to like an elderly point, you know, you have a lot of time, you have a lot of money, but no energy.
Exactly.
And so it's just kind of like you have to balance all of those things. And it's not necessarily like a work-life balance. You know, like you can find joy in your work, and you can find joy at home, and then you can incorporate ways into those things. You know, like you can bring your kids into your work life. So it doesn't always have to be like, there's this like myth of work-life balance where it's like, I leave my work at work and I leave my home life at home. And it's like, especially when you're an entrepreneur, you want to bring those kids along. Like my kids have been into the studio a number of times, and like, one thing that I've really wanted to do, and they just haven't been able to sit still for like 4.5 seconds, is like, I want to get them on camera and like interview them and like, and do that like on every one of their birthdays. And, like,
that's cool.
So that way you could see like the progression of them over time. But because they're twins and they can't sit still, like I got them into the studio. One was like hard no to getting on camera. And the other one was just like poop, poop, pee, pee. And I'm like, come on, man, like give me a little bit more of that. So it was a difficult thing, but like that balance should be there in terms of like just your overall life and not separating things from one another.
Absolutely.
And that's definitely where somebody like yourself can help kind of like re-establish that.
Yeah, because
a lot
of
like
times,
you're trying to put these into different buckets, but like everything is the same bucket. You only have one life.
And the one thing that I noticed too, that when I talk to, again, most of the time it's the youth, is they want to shoot for the top right away. I want to become a millionaire in a year.
Well, they see it on YouTube, and it's hard.
Exactly.
It's hard not to, but it's like, especially for somebody like in our age bracket, it's like you see an overnight success, but that's all you see.
Exactly.
You don't see the 10 years that led up to it.
Absolutely.
You see the Alex Hormozis. You don't see him when he was sleeping on his gym floor and destitute and like, fuck, I'm a failure. You know, like you don't see that part. He talks about it, but like if you're only watching the YouTube clips,
you're only going to see the best.
You're only seeing the super insightful things, and
the polished version of what took place from all the other shit before it.
And it's like, you know, in everybody's life, there's going to be a point where you're gonna feel like it's the lowest point of my life. And it's all about how you kind of like take that, you turn it and say, all right, now I have this enormous opportunity as opposed to this enormous daunting task.
Exactly.
And now you're taking that opportunity that's in front of you and switching it and turning it into your favor. And then it's like, what are you going to do with it?
And also what I tell them too is like, especially today, and I know you understand completely, is like today everybody is very, very soft. They're not growing up like how we did, where our parents were, they were tough on us. Right. So I always tell my clients, I always tell them my story. I won't give the whole story here, but basically I went to college, I had to come home, couldn't balance the partying and the school. I say it as a joke now, but then I came home and all I wanted was for my parents to give me a hug and say, you know, you made a mistake, but we're going to figure it out. I got the complete opposite. I got the, you know, you fucked up. So what's your plan now? You're not sleeping on my couch and, you know, doing nothing. You're going to figure something out. And it at the time, it really hurt. You know, it was really like, holy shit, like I'm a loser. And that's how I felt. And it put me into a really, really dark place.
And you hate your parents.
Oh, I hated myself.
Why can't you just help me?
Yeah, my sister, she's a master, you know, she has a master's degree in social work, and she's excelling in everything she does. And I was always chasing her because I thought that's the only way to make my parents proud, you know? So, and a lot of these kids are going through the same thing. And I just tell them, like, you don't want to ever, if you never want to feel like a loser, don't ever give yourself the opportunity to be one. So figure out what you want to do. And if it requires school, then at least you have a plan and know what you got to do. And you want it that bad that you're not going to go to school and screw around. You're going to go to school and get it done. And then come home and be the best version of yourself. I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something in the fitness field, but I never should have went away to school. I was meant to stay home, do a year maybe at Suffolk, and then figure it out. But I went right to the big guns, and I never should have did it.
I kind of did the same thing. Like at 18, I went down to Florida, and like being so far away from home, you know, like in a totally different state. I don't know anybody, and so it was like an exciting thing. But I had my own apartment. The school didn't have any dorms, so it was like I got a real kick in the ass of like, here's all the freedom that you could possibly want.
Right.
And, you know, like I still graduated, but it wasn't like I did as good as I could have or should have or as targeted as I wanted it to be. And then like as soon as I came back home, it was like, okay, great. I got this degree. What am I going to do with it now? And it's like, you know, even going to the school that I did where it was like hyper focused on like, you're going to be a graphic designer. 2009. Everybody in the world was a graphic designer and everybody was outsourcing to India at 10 cents on the dollar. So it was like every job posting was like, you need to have experience in this. We're going to pay you $10.
$10.
And you had to go to the city or you had to go to this place and you had to go to that place. And I was just like, this is overwhelming. And it took me a good like 6 years before I found like a graphic design job. And it was putting logos on pens for like a multinational company in Hop Hog where like it was no art involved in it whatsoever. It was taking somebody's pre-made art, fitting it into the square on a piece of paper. And I liken it to like kind of the mailman. No matter what, there was always more. You were never, the job was never done. There was never like a satisfaction of like, great, we've accomplished everything that we could for today. Now I feel good. And the next morning you walk in,
pile,
thousands of more jobs. And, and it's like, there were some days where I was like hyper motivated. And I was like, I'm going to do 100 jobs today. That's what I'm going to do. And then you get through 100 jobs and there's 100 more just sitting there waiting. And it was just like one of those things that was just very demoralizing. And especially like going to school the way that I did and spending the amount of money that I did. And I'm like, this is it? Like this is graphic design now?
And I see that a lot too. And that's how I felt really as the years progressed after I came out of college. I went to Suffolk for the 2 years, got my associates. I was like, now what do I do? Like it, and honestly, like I always put it to God that, you know, he put people in my life that showed me what I was like meant to do. And I reconnected with who's my wife now. And I, you know, her father, my father-in-law's, you know, he's well off, he's successful, he's a businessman. And I saw what doing your own thing can do. And when then versus working for somebody else. Now, I don't knock anybody that does the 9 to 5 because I grew up with parents that did that, and we never wanted for anything. They worked very hard, and but I know they struggled. And you know, as a parent, my mom would always say this to us: is we always want you to do better than we did, right? So, my dad to this day does not quite grasp what I do because he can't wrap his head around not getting a paycheck every week. You know, you understand completely. We don't know. There's weeks where you don't get paid. And you're hoping to God that someone's due or a new client signs up or whatever the case may be. And, you know, he doesn't quite, he tells me all the time that he envies me for it because he couldn't live like that. He couldn't live not knowing when another paycheck's coming. So, but I live off of that. It's because it's always a challenge.
And I couldn't live the other way.
Me either.
I tried it for a number of years and like doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. For some people, they're great. They're happy at that. But for me, even as like a 16-year-old, like I worked a retail job and then like 6 months in, there was like an assistant manager position. I'm like, oh, boom, done. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get raised up. No problem. Easy money, you know, like, and then it didn't happen. And I'd be like annoyed because I'm like, why did you choose that person over me? And it's like, I almost had like that expectation. And expectations ruled my life for a long period of time because same thing. My parents were 9 to 5ers. My mom was a nurse. My dad was a truck driver. And like they always worked for other people. I didn't have any business owners or entrepreneurs in my entire extended family. Like none of them. Like none of my cousins, nobody. So it was just one of those things where it was just like not really an option. Nobody was like, hey, why don't you start your own thing and do it for yourself? You know, like I started freelancing with graphic design and that was kind of like my first taste. And then I met my brother-in-law, my sister's husband now. And he never worked. Like he did. For a period of time, he worked a 9 to 5, but it was never for him. He was always like, oh, I started this business. Oh, I'm going to do this thing now. I'm going to print t-shirts. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And that was like kind of opened my eyes to a point that where it was like, oh, I don't have to do this rat race thing.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And like for the first few years, I was with him on everything.
Yeah.
Like every time he farted an idea, I'm like, dude, let's do it. Let's go.
Yeah.
And like after a while, I kind of realized that like following somebody else wasn't necessarily the best step for me.
Yep.
You know, like because they're doing their thing that they need to do. And like I'm always waiting.
Exactly.
It was like a waiting game. Like, oh, give me something to do. Give me something to do.
Yep.
Like once I realized like I was done with the 9-to-5 thing. And then I started working on the photography stuff on the side.
Yep.
And once there was like, there was a moment where I got fired.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, all right, put up or shut up.
Yeah.
Like, you going to do this thing
Yep.
or are you going to get another job?
Yep.
And I was like, well, like we just got in the house, like not long before that.
Yeah.
And like we were in the house for a year.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, let's go do this thing.
Yeah.
And I started it. And, you know, it was slow going for the first few months, first year or whatever. But like you kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
And then like, okay, I got another clients. And then, you know, somebody was like, hey, can you make me a video? I'm like, yeah, sure, absolutely.
Right.
Never made a video before.
Yep.
And then I was just like, all right, let's figure it out. And that really started I've always been a curious person.
Yeah.
I've always been listen to both sides and come up with my own opinion in the middle somewhere. Or like I can empathize with both things.
Yeah.
But like that really sparked my curiosity of like, do these things because they're going to make you better.
Yep.
And you're going to learn more. And now I can give more back to my clients by doing those things, you know? And it all came with like better gear and better things, but like it was a lot of the mentality.
Oh yeah.
And now my main focus is just trying to give as much value
for
the dollar that people are going to spend.
That's the thing. And I tell people all the time too, if you're thinking about going into business, as crazy as this may sound, put the money last. If you go in it just to make money, your potential clients, potential customers, potential whatever, they will know that you're in it for money.
Right.
They can feel it. And me and Alexa just had this conversation a couple days ago. We were sitting on the couch and we were talking about it. Over the years of my existence, of being able to work, I started working at 13. I've had 16 jobs, right? And I laugh about it.
I would rival that. Yeah,
I literally have bounced from job to job to job, never satisfied, no growth, just did not want to be stuck in one spot, sitting at a desk, whatever. And you know, when I started my business, I always said that, you know, I worked for 3 or 4 different gyms when I started doing personal training. And I always used to say that when I used to be at the front desk of these gyms and people would come in, whether they were paying clients or not, or they were looking to be trained or whatever, the people behind those desks all they'd see is a dollar sign with legs coming across the parking lot. That's all they'd see. And they treated you that way. Yeah. We'll give you this. We'll give you this deal. We'll give you this. If you sign up today, you'll get this. And it's like, you're completely missing the point. This person's walking in the door because they want to change their life. Yeah. They don't want you to empty their pockets. So when I started my business as both life coaching and my fitness company, I always vowed that I would never treat a client or a potential client as someone who's just going to be another name on a spreadsheet. I always said that because if you're not happy, I'm not happy. So when I sign somebody up, and I don't sign everybody up. If I really don't think I'm going to be a good fit for you, I won't take your money. Just how I am. Yeah. And in the beginning, I said yes to everybody. Yeah. Everybody got a yes from me because I was growing. Yeah. But you quickly realize that it's not always the best option. No. And that's what I learned from working in these other places was you have to pick clients that are, first of all, fit your needs as far as what you want to do, but you also have to fit theirs. And they also have to know that if you're going to invest that kind of money, and I'm not saying I'm the most expensive. I'm also not the cheapest one out there. Right. But if you're going to invest money in yourself, whether it's mental health or physical health, you're going to require that you see results. Yeah. And that's what I always vowed. If you're not happy, I'm not happy. And if you're not, I will do what I can to fix it. So
that's definitely like one of the things that when I first started my business was like quality over quantity.
Absolutely.
You know, like for me in the real estate media business, there's 20,000 real estate agents just in Nassau, Suffolk County alone. You know, 20,000 is a lot.
A lot of competition.
I don't need all those.
Yep.
I don't need even 5%.
Right.
You know, like I need the top 2%. And not necessarily the top 2% in terms of like gross sales or anything like that, but the people that really care, the people that look at their marketing and say, I want to do something different. Exactly. I don't want to be the same. I don't want to just send generic mailers to everybody. And especially for like where I concentrate most of my business in the luxury markets, you know, those types of people need a certain type of person
Absolutely.
to sell and market to a luxury clientele.
Absolutely.
And especially like you send out mailers in Southampton, 95% of them are going to empty homes.
Right.
Because they're not living there on a full-time basis.
Right.
So, you know, you have to be able to reach those people where they're at, and the mailers aren't going to do it. The same things that work in Shoreham aren't going to work in Southampton.
Exactly.
You know, so it's like, because I had my starting as like a marketing person in a real estate office
You understood.
in the Hamptons, that's kind of where my mentality goes. And even when I get somebody in the residential market, I'll handle it differently, but I try to give them the same mentality that I give my luxury market, my luxury agents. You know, like you can do just generic houses, but they could be done differently.
Absolutely.
You could do something different, and nobody else in that market is doing it.
That's the only way.
So that's
you
how
grow.
you're going to stand out, and that's how you're going to get more phone calls because people are going to see that photo, that video, and say, "Wow, like that agent really cares." And what I call it is like, it's not just selling this house.
Right.
You're branding yourself as a person who does this for every listing. I do a photo, video, drone, floor plan for every listing, no matter what, because that's what I stand for as an agent. The video is not the thing that sells the house.
Right.
It's not like somebody sees a video and they're like, boom, sold, sight unseen. You know, like I don't need to see it. I saw the video, like boom, let's do it. But it's the thing that sets the appointment. It's the thing that sets you out apart from other agents that are taking cell phone photos of listings and expecting people to call or come to their open house. And it's like, you might get people that come to the open house, but not as many people that might have come had you just invested a little bit into really quality photos. And, you know, some people, they're perfectly happy doing photos on their phone. By all means. Go. That's not the person that I want as a client anyway.
Exactly.
You know, like I've had to fire a number of clients that were doing things or wanted me to do something different. And it's like, I was at a point where I was just like, yeah, I can do that, but it's not going to be the best product that I can put out there. And it's like, I don't really feel good about that. You know, like, sure, you want me to shut up and turn my brain off? All right, great. I'll snap this photo the way that you want it, hyper wide, and make every room look like a football field. And then somebody shows up and then they're going to be disappointed. And then they're not going to yell at me. They're going to yell at you. And so I'm always trying to look out for the agents and say, stand back.
You'll ruin your reputation
zoom
that
in,
way.
And make the room look how it looks in real life. Give people that accurate perspective in the photos. So when you get somebody there, they're like, oh, wow, this looks even better than the photos.
Exactly.
But the photos are what gets them in the door.
Same thing. I mean, realistically, it's like it goes with most of that type of, well, in the industries in general, but you're doing photography, your billboard is the way you produce photos and videos. Someone like me in the fitness industry, you want to see transformation pictures and stories of clients. That's what sets me apart. So when I started my company, it was, what is my ideal client? I didn't know because I was willing to take anybody. My ideal client that I work with now are people that genuinely want to change. If I get someone that walks in the gym who's shredded, six-pack, had big muscles, everything's good, the hell do you need me for? Right? The person who's 500 pounds who can barely walk to their car, that's my ideal client. Because first of all, you're going to see the biggest transformation of your life off of somebody like that. That's the extreme end. I've had people that are in the middle, same thing. The dads who can't play tag with their kids in the backyard without stopping and bending over and huffing. I'm like, you know, they're like, holy shit, I need to change. And they're the other person where it's like, you know, oh, my daughter's getting married next year and I can't fit into my suit. Okay, let's do it. And all of a sudden you need to go get resized because you lost so much weight. You know, so those are the people that really, really want to be helped. As same thing with your industry, that want to stand out. That's what I do. That's like, I want those big transformation stories. They're my favorites. Exactly.
And that's kind of the most important part is you have goals. You're not just like happy with your station.
Exactly.
How it is, wherever you're at in life. You have goals. You want to go places. You want to do things. And whether it's traveling or whether it's just being able to walk to your car without losing your breath.
One of my favorite ones that just happened in the life coaching part of my business, 19-year-old kid has this dream, and it's such a good idea. Can't say it, but it's a really, really good idea. Wanted to do it so bad, and parents are just so against it. And we had a really, really in-depth conversation. He was so afraid to talk to his parents about it, just terrified. And basically, I just cracked into him and I said, you will regret that for the rest of your life if you don't tell your parents that you're ready to jump and you're ready to do this thing of what you want to do. 2 days ago, he texted me. He goes, I did it, and I quit my job this morning. And I was like, okay, I didn't tell you to do quit the job part, but he's like, no. He goes, and now he's doing a whole bunch, like today and tomorrow. He's got meetings set up. He's got all these things he's working on. It's all I want to see. I want to see those things that like we were all so afraid to do. I was terrified to do those things and be able to preach it to somebody and be like, just do what I did. Just do what I did. Trust me.
Take the risk.
And they do it. And whether it works out for them or not, you'll never have that regret ever again because you did it.
You'll know.
Exactly.
And it's the not knowing that's the scariest thing.
100%.
But now that you know, like what I was saying before too is like this studio concept may not work.
Right.
But I'm not afraid of if it doesn't work.
Exactly.
If it doesn't work and I have to pay back a loan or whatever for the next 5 years just because it didn't work, I made that effort. I'll go to my media business and I'll crank that one out even more.
Exactly.
But the idea for these two businesses, it's kind of work hand in hand with each other. You know, like to get a lot of clients in here that instead of going in your office and doing something in your conference room with poor lighting and windows everywhere and distractions here, there, and everywhere. You know, like I was talking about it with one of my last guests is that like one of the most unique things about podcasting is this. We're sitting, we're talking, we're looking each other in the eyes and you can see how somebody's reacting to everything that you're saying. It's not through a computer screen. And it's not where, oh, I'm checking my phone and I got something going on or I'm waiting to get a call back from this person or that person. It's
this is as real as it gets.
You pause life to an extent for an hour. And it's so rare that you talk to somebody. I can't even talk to my wife for 6.5 seconds without 2 kids butting in. Daddy. I'm like, I just want to tell you about my day and like one thing that happened today. And I can't even get that out because toddlers are just like, they sense it. It's like they can be quiet in the other room. And the second that, going on. Not even, there's a conversation going on. I need to interrupt that, you know? And so it's hard to just like have that conversation. By the time like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock rolls around, like I don't even want to have that conversation
I forgot what happened during my day.
I don't even remember. I'm just like, can we just veg out for a little bit? Like, can we do that? And it's like, so now me and my wife are missing that opportunity. But it's just like for business owners, for business people, for you to bring on a guest that you want to talk to. And it could be like a pitch meeting in and of itself where it's like, hey, what are your goals? Let's sit and have a conversation on camera. You get clips. I get clips. We both look more professional just by being in a nicer space. And there's value in that. Whether me and you work together or not, now you're still getting something out of the conversation of you coming in here and me pitching you on my services.
Model is brilliant. It's genius what you're doing here. I mean, from what I understand, at least, and you explained it to me before, there aren't many people that do this.
No.
So
not in Suffolk County.
Your market's there.
And that was the most important part is like when I did the market research and I found other places that were doing this in like Western Nassau, Garden City. And it's like, you know, it's a little bit of a hike.
Oh yeah.
You're not going to get somebody from West Hampton or even Huntington to go out to Garden City with the flow of traffic. No. No thanks.
I'm even further east than I'm further west than that. I'm Shoreham. So it's I'm not driving all the way to Garden City to go sit for an hour.
I'm not even going to 2 hours to get there.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to Smithtown. And the point is that like I wanted this to be as centrally located as possible so I can get the Farmingdale people, I can get the Huntington people, I can get the West Hampton people, I can get the Mattituck people where it's like still a drive, but it's not like so much of a drive. With so much traffic. You know, like there's a way that you can get here where there's very little traffic. If you can get to Islip Airport, which everybody loves to go to, you can get to the studio. And that was kind of like, that was almost like problem number one. Was like, yeah, the concept, great. Did a whole bunch of research into it, but the location needed to be
It's like your real estate
central.
lotto logo. It's location.
100%. So like that was the biggest thing for me because I wanted the most amount of people possible to be able to get here. As opposed to, you know, like I also live in Shoreham. I could have set this up in Miller Place.
Exactly.
But then like how many people are going to come?
You're limiting
How
it
many
at that
people are
point.
going to see? Am I going to get somebody from Farmingdale that wants to drive out to Miller Place?
Right.
Have they even heard of Miller Place? You know, like that's one thing that I get with Shoreham. People are like, where
the hell is that?
I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, we're in the country.
And I was like, oh, do you know where Riverhead is? I'm like 10 minutes west of that. You know, like that's kind of how I break it down for people sometimes. So it's like, but everybody knows Bohemia. Everyone knows Islip. I'm like, oh, okay, I can get there. Smart. And like 2 seconds off of the Sunrise, 5 seconds off of the LIE. So like it's easily accessible, get in, get out in the industrial area. So it's not like super busy. There's not like 5,000 people walking up and down. Like we haven't heard any noise coming through. So and for me, the biggest thing with this space is like for a business owner, you come in, make some content. All you have to do is sit down. The cameras are all already set. The lighting is already set. You know, like we can change around the backgrounds or where you want it to be in Studio 1, Studio 2, all within the same space. And all you have to do is sit and talk. And then you're done. And now you have a whole bunch of social media clips right at the end of the episode that's like, oh, that was super easy. And like that.
It's all easily and it's all easily done. I mean, the setup that you've made here is amazing. So it's very cool.
It was definitely a labor of love and figuring out a lot of things that I was not aware of previously. You know, like for me as a person who learned photography on my own and learned video on my own, like figuring out lighting and accurate lighting. Like again, I was a graphic designer. Like I would make it all in Photoshop, but then like with moving pictures, it's like you need these things to kind of be like set up right the first time. You need it to be done right ahead of time and have those things. So even with the audio and stuff, like that's not my forte. That's not what I'm the best at. So that's where like I've taken the time and learned everything and tweaked it all. And like now it's gotten to a point where I kind of have it all like dialed in. But like every session that somebody gets, you get me or another one of my people sitting behind the desk and live switching camera 1, 3, 2, back, forth, you know, and you get that live cut right at the end of the episode. It's awesome. Like I'll send you the Dropbox link, or if you have a hard drive, like you bring it in, I'll give it to you. Here you go. Boom, done.
So cool.
Like all the work is done for you. And you just come in. Like you don't have to think about all that additional stuff. Like if you're doing a podcast by yourself in your house, you have to think about what does the background look like? What does it sound like? Am I getting echo? Are my kids running around upstairs? You know, like all those different things and variables are eliminated here. And that was kind of like the main goal is to just make it a one-stop shop for people to come in.
You've done it.
Record, make money from the recordings. Now, like, months worth of content in 2 hours. Like you come in and say, I want to talk about bop, 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 bop. All right, great. Let's do it. I have a teleprompter if you want to read it off of the teleprompter. Or if you just want to like wing it, let's do it. I'll put it on bullet points on the teleprompter. And then you could just say, I want to talk about this. Boom, boom, boom. And then now you have content.
It's awesome.
And like we can record vertical, horizontal, make it nice and easy for you. So like whatever your end goal, like if you're only going to ever put this on social media, vertical. You know, set every one of these cameras up for vertical. You know, if you're only going to do YouTube, everything's horizontal. And then we crop in for vertical shorts. You know, so
smart. It's so smart, man.
Nice and easy for everyone. And, you know, I get to talk to other business owners. And that's the biggest thing is like having all these business owners on here or people that want to just expand. You know, it could be a product. It could be a service. It could be something that they just want to do more of. And that's where the space is, on one hand, generic enough for everyone, but specific enough for whatever your niche is. If you want to change all these books, you know, like if you had a certain podcast sponsor that you can want to bring in, sure, we'll change this whole thing out, put it on the table. Like if you got Prime that wants to sponsor you, great, let's put Prime bottles here, do a 30-second ad read like in the middle of it.
That's awesome.
That's great, you know? And so like back to you with like the life coaching, what would you say has been like one of your biggest impacts with the life coaching?
As
like,
far as
just like where somebody came to you and where they're at now.
Well, other than that simple little thing before, I was dealing with this girl who I'm still working with now. And basically just the only way to describe her is just the most socially and just anxiety. They just could not be in a room with random new people. She needed to have one person in that room that she knew, and otherwise she couldn't function. And we dug in deep and we basically found what I do is just you find that core problem, where it comes from. And I found it, and it was just, you never would have thought of it. And that's what I love. I love, it's almost like when you ever see like a medium work with somebody and say like they're contacting like a dead relative or whatever, right? And all of a sudden they're like, the medium says something and the person's like, how the fuck do you know that? That's what happens. Like that's what it feels like. Like I hit that thing, and it's like I asked the question, like, did this ever happen to you when you were a kid? And all of a sudden they're like, how the hell did you know it? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it's like that's where it's coming from. And then we talk about it, and then I relate it to why you have the issues that you have, and then we're able to pull out the tool bag, and we put new tools in there for you that when this happens, you know where it's coming from. Now we have to try to get you to avoid it. And then once you're able to do that, that's no longer a problem.
Yep.
And that's what happened to her. She had an instance in her life, nothing really traumatic. It was just an instance in her life that she never forgot. It was a very embarrassing memory that she had, and it scarred her. It ruined her. Yep. And she was always afraid of that happening to her again. And we dug into it, fixed it, kind of melded it out a little bit. Yeah. And now it's like, she walks into a room, she talks to everybody. Yep. She talks to everybody. And that's why like she goes to networking events. She goes to different parties and holiday parties with new clients and whatever. And it's like, who the hell is this person? Which I love being able to say that. Yeah. It's like, where did you come from? What happened? It's like, well, we fixed your problem.
That was me for a period of time, especially like after COVID. Right. And once I stopped working in an office and I'm only working by myself and like, you know, making small talk with real estate agents or whatever. Yep. But like, that's why when I joined that networking group in Mattituck, it's been life-changing in the fact that like, I would always need somebody. Right. I would always need that safety blanket of somebody that I can chit chat with, and like we'll huddle in the corner and we'll be perfectly fine. Oh, good, you're outgoing. Like you can bring people over, and then I'm happy to join in. You know, like even throughout high school, I was always like that. Yep. Where I'd find my person. Yep. And then we'd be talking, and then like somebody else would come over, and they're like, oh, great, now the three of us are talking. But like if that person left, I was like,
it clammed right back up.
Yeah. About that, you know, but. Joining that networking group and talking to a group of 30 people on a weekly basis and standing up in front of them and ironing down my 30-second commercial of like, I'm James Calandrino. I do photographic studios. We're photo, drone, video, floor plans, like everything that you need for real estate. And boom. Once I can get that out, now I've gone to a number of networking events where I know nobody. Like literally just got invited by somebody that called me one time, and like, but I'm not sitting there talking to that one person the whole time. And now I'm confident walking into a room.
You're confident now,
and talking to anybody. Yeah, no, this is what I do. And like, it's 30 seconds. My pitch is out there of like, this is what I do.
It's also because you love what you do. So obviously if you love what you do, you have no problem talking about what you do. So that's my thing over the past year and a half, 2 years now was, I would put things out all over the place saying, I'll be a guest on, no, not to pay me a dime. Yeah. Bring me in as a guest on. I wanted to talk, not necessarily just about what I do. I just wanted the chance I could talk to anybody. Yeah. But in front of a camera, in front of a group of people, there's always a shred of nervousness that comes out. But I wanted to get better at that because my real goal, my big goal is to be like the next Tony Robbins, where I'm talking in front of thousands, doing a motivational speech or whatever. That's like my biggest goal. Once that's my next one, that's my biggest one. But can't do that if, first of all, no one's hearing your message, no one hears your voice, no one knows what you actually do. Right. But also they want to see how you deliver yourself. Yep. So what better way to do that than going on podcasts, going on interviews, talking to people, going to networking events, which I've done a million of them now. Yeah. And it, true, like you said, it fixes issues that you have.
It's getting the reps in too.
Absolutely.
Just the same as working out.
Absolutely.
It's like the first time that you do something, it sucks. Like, oh, I'm going to do a pull-up. All right. It's awful. Like I could do one. And then you're like, the next time, all right, I could do 1.5.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Now I could do 2. And then like you just gradually build it up. Once you get those reps in, you get the muscle memory of just like, this isn't so bad. Yep. Like I could do this now, like, and especially walking into a room where you know nobody, and being able to introduce yourself with that confidence of
people
like, hey,
want that.
This is what I do, and like they'll gravitate towards
absolutely,
that, you know, 100% more.
And that's the thing, like even when you're talking, like I used to when I was doing interviews or when I used to be in sales, The guy who used to train me, my closer, he would always hear me on the phone, and he could tell when I was getting nervous. I get asked a question I didn't know the answer to, and I'd panic, and you start saying you start saying you start saying, oh, like you start doing things like that. And he would put a Post-it every time I did it. He'd stick it to the screen of my computer. Stop saying stop saying And I just remembered that. And now when I talk to people, it's in my subconscious of, if you clam up or you don't you know how to say something, don't start throwing in filler words, because your confidence starts to do this.
Yeah.
So when you're talking, even if someone asks you a question you know the answer to, you don't have to know the answer to the question. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with saying I don't know.
That was one thing that I learned when I worked at Apple Retail.
Yeah.
Like, they were really good at training for their store level associates, and one of the things that they would harp on is just saying, I don't know. Let's find out.
Yep.
And then going to one of the 100 computers that are on the floor and looking it up together.
Exactly.
Or give me 1 second. Let me go and get one of the people from the back. And like, just having that, like, I don't know, let's find out, saves you from so many moments of like, I'm not 100% sure, but let's look that up together. So that way you could see that I am also seeing the same thing as you. You know, like when I used to work at Best Buy, people would ask questions. I'd be like, it says it on the card. I don't know. That's about it. I don't have any other knowledge outside of what's on that card. You know, and now that we have the ability to look up so many different things on a moment's notice, you know, it makes it easier to say, I don't know, let's find out.
And there's plenty of times where, you know, if I'm working with a training client or a nutrition client where they'll ask me a question. Now, am I an expert in what I do? I would like to consider myself one, but there are plenty of questions that I get asked where I'm like, I got no idea. And I was like, that's a great question. I will find out for you.
Right.
And I make a note, and you will hear an answer back from me within an hour.
Yeah.
I'll consult with other trainers, other friends of mine, doctors I'm friends with. I'll Google things, and it's like I will find the answer for you.
Yeah.
But I'm not the walking encyclopedia. I don't have all the answers.
It adds more to the trustworthiness.
Absolutely.
Is when you can admit, I
Absolutely.
don't know. I don't have an answer for that. You know, like instead of just trying to like BS somebody and say something that's totally incorrect. And like anytime that I have said something that's totally incorrect, I know. And like it'll be like a week later and be like, oh man, I really told them the wrong thing. Even if it's like how many megapixels are in one camera versus another.
And it's like what I do, you know, someone asked me a question about a supplement or something like that, and is this safe to take with this medication that I'm on? And if I turn to you and I say, oh yeah, it should be fine. What happens if something happens to you?
Right.
I gave you the green light to do so. I could advise you and say, I would say it's fine, but I would definitely consult your doctor before you do that. Even if it's not medication related, even if it's just a supplement, like does this actually work, or are there any side effects to taking this? I've never had any, but that doesn't mean you won't. So
is this good for me?
Right.
Especially in that one, because you know what's good for you may not be good for me.
Totally
your body
people.
metabolizes things differently than my body does. So it's like I need things that you make more of naturally. So you know, there's always something, especially in like the health fields.
Yeah, like you said, it builds trust. Being able to tell somebody like, I don't really know if that's safe to take with this, so why don't you? I would consult with your doctor. I could look things up. I could Google, but I'm not a doctor, and neither is Google.
Yeah.
So I
double
would
check, triple check,
definitely
make sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because again, like you said, it builds trust that you're willing to go the extra mile, but you're not willing to just go, oh yeah, it should be fine. Then all of a sudden they have a heart attack because they mix two things together. Right. You know.
What is your? I know. I'm sure you're probably going to say, but like, what's your favorite part of being a life coach?
Honestly, hearing people's stories. That's my favorite. I love when you come to me and you are that, even if you're not, when I say broken, I like someone who's broken, meaning that the world is doom and gloom, but like there are plenty of stories that I've heard that I am 100% honest, I've cried hearing some of these stories that I deal with. Some of them I relate to, some of them, you know, you hits you like, my life ain't that bad. When you think about it, I've got a pretty damn good life compared to what you have gone through. But when people come to you in that broken state and they're calling out to you for help, I always look at it again. I go back to my faith, but God sent you to me to help you. He's using me to do his work. So you came to me, he brought you into my life, and now it is my duty to help you. And if I don't feel like I can, you need something a little bit more than what I can offer, I will not BS you and say, I'll fix you. You may need someone better than me, a therapist or something like that. But if I'm confident that I can help you, my goal is for you to see that light of whether it's something as simple as being able to talk to your parents about something that's going on that you want to pursue, or the extreme end of it of you were sexually assaulted as a kid and it's been ruining every relationship you've ever had from that point forward. Those are the people that I want to be able to help you and show you that you're capable of love, you're capable of success, you're capable of walking into a room being confident. I want you to be able to do that and put all that bad shit that happened to you over the years, put it way back behind you and never look at it again.
Right.
Use it as, look at how far I've come, but don't let it be an anchor behind you for the rest of your life. So hearing people's stories is definitely my favorite. And then just being able to hold somebody's hand and show them the answer to your problem. And now I'm going to help you deal with it.
Right.
And we're going to give you the tools to be able to deal with it every single day that you stare at that problem in the face. So
what would you say would be like 3 things that somebody could do today? Like if not just they're considering getting a life coach, but just like wanting to do something different in their own life.
Yeah.
Like what would you suggest?
There's really, I mean, I could definitely name 3, but the big one is just start. Okay. So giving you a direct quote from my grandfather that I hang on to every single day is, if you wait till you're ready, you're never going to be ready. There is no perfect time to start anything. So if you have a dream, you have a goal, you have a burning desire in your soul to go after whatever it is, doesn't have to be business, could be anything that you have a dead set look on in your life, just start. Take the steps right now and figure out what it looks like and what you have to do to get there. Because if you try to figure it all out, right? Think about, I'll put it this way. When we had our son, right? We had our house, my business was doing well, Alexa was working, everything was in my eyes, it was perfect, right? No one really realizes how expensive having a baby is, right? So
it's impossible to tell somebody.
Exactly. Like, so, my son's born, and all of a sudden hospital bills start coming in the mail. And we're like, where the hell are these coming from? Oh, insurance didn't cover this. Insurance didn't. I'm honest about it. I don't care. Didn't cover this, didn't cover that. And all of a sudden you're looking at, $15,000 in bills, and you're looking going, I was doing well, but Jesus Christ, like what am I going to do now? So my grandfather would always say, if you try to wait till everything is perfect, you're never going to get started. So I relate that to having a child, getting married, things like that, where I could have started my company first. I could have made sure that I was a millionaire before I got married and had a baby. But I never would have got married, never had a baby.
Right.
I never would have did any of that if I waited till I was ready. You're never going to potentially be a millionaire or a successful businessman or woman if you don't just start. Start making moves towards that. Doesn't mean you have to have your entire business plan laid out in front of you, but take your first steps. For you, buy your first camera. When you became a photographer, you bought your first camera. It probably wasn't the best camera on the market.
It certainly
but
was
you knew what you wanted to do, and you took your first step and you bought your first camera and you started pointing and shooting at stuff. Right? I started my business. My business started by working in gyms, but I knew I wanted to do my own thing. COVID hit, perfect opportunity. Talked to a bunch of people I was friends with. They were all going online and doing online coaching. No overhead, no risk. I took a shot and it worked out. Bought a house, built a gym, decided to take that next step. So it's just taking those baby steps towards your ultimate goal of whatever that looks like. Is it being a millionaire? Is it buying your first home, buying your first car by yourself? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just make those little baby steps towards that.
Cool. What would be, if somebody wants to use your services, is there anything that they have to do like ahead of time, or is it just reach out?
Just reach out. Yeah. I mean, really, I have my major coaching website, and then I also have my, basically click it and we jump on a Zoom call, basically. And the biggest thing is that there's only one person that I legally can't work with, and that is somebody who is actively having suicidal temptations. Can't work with them.
Right.
Anybody else, if you were suicidal at one point, or literally from that person on, I can work with you. So the biggest thing is my services, they're you pay for them, but the 30-minute Zoom call when you schedule with me, totally free. And that's my opportunity to explain to you what I do, who I am. You get to know me. And it's also my chance to learn about you and what really is going on in your life. And if we're a good fit, we talk about, cost, pricing, how it works, and we go from there. But again, like I said in the beginning of our conversation, if I don't think you're a good fit for me and I'm not a good fit for you, I'm not taking your money.
Right.
I will point you in a better direction, someone who will better assist you with your issues. So, but as far as getting in contact with me, it's basically phone, email, and then my RB Life calendar is the name of the one, brings you right to my calendar. And you hit let's chat, throws you into my calendar. You pick a time and day, and it comes right to my phone. I know I have a Zoom call with you.
Yeah.
And we chat. That's it.
That's awesome.
That's it. Makes it very, very simple.
Yeah.
So
I do the same thing kind of with my business, where it's just like you can go on my calendar, you can see every time slot that I have available for a photo shoot, for a phone call or something.
Exactly.
Like, everything kind of feeds off of one calendar. You can book the studio just through a website, and get everything that you need, but easily accessible. You don't have to call me necessarily in order to like, hey, I'm interested in doing this thing. What are the next steps?
Right.
It's like right there on the website. So if you're interested, boom, order, make it nice and easy. Yeah. But if you want to talk, always happy to have that conversation, figure it out.
Exactly.
Of like, maybe this isn't going to be the right thing, or maybe you're 2 months away from something, or ready to start in a little bit.
Yep. And some people, when I put my website up for the first time, it has, your main website has everything you do. There's all the different tabs of how to get to different things. And, a really, really good friend of mine said you should really have that page that there's no distractions. It's just a quick little blurb about you and then get on my calendar.
Right.
Because people get lost on websites. There's a lot of ways to just get distracted. They got different tabs opened up. All of a sudden, Facebook throws them a notification. They click it. They forget about your website. Yeah. Right? So that landing page idea, and I was like, that's pretty smart. And I don't, just because you have a Zoom call with me doesn't mean I'm going to try and sign you.
Right.
Today's Friday. I've had 15 Zoom calls this week. Signed one person.
Right.
And it's not because nobody was a good fit or I wasn't a good fit for them. One, it may have been cost. It may have been this. Or what I deal with a lot is people being advocates for somebody else. My son would really benefit from you. He's 25 years old, gives me the whole story. Have him reach out to me. When you're an advocate for somebody else, very, very rarely does it work out. Yeah. Not never, but very, very rarely.
Well, because then, like, if it's a parent saying it to a child, it's like, oh, you should do this.
Exactly.
And then it's like, I'm not going to do that just because my mom told me to do it.
Just like going to college. It's the same idea.
I know. I'm learning that with my 14-year-old, where it's like, I see a lot of other kids with a big pickup and hustle. And my son, he does not have that.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, like, you have this great opportunity in front of you. If you just take it, if you just go out there, like, again, where we were talking about before, where like my parents were 9 to 5, like they never pushed me in they were like, go get a job. And now I'm trying to tell my son, like, go make a job.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, at 14, 15, like, you have this great opportunity of all that time and energy.
There is
and
so
ability,
much money to be made.
And it's just, he doesn't want it. And I'm like, I can't force you. I'm not going to harp on it. But at the same time, like, bro, if I would have started the business that I'm in now.
Oh my, forget it. Forget it.
Even when I was in college. Like when I was living in Florida, if I would have started a real estate media company down there in the middle of the recession where everybody was selling houses left, right, and center.
God
people were getting foreclosed on. I could have been working for banks. I could have been working for tons of different companies in and around the Orlando area. Like where I would have been at 30 would have been miles different than where I started. But all those life experiences led me to that point.
Of course, you wouldn't change any of them.
I wouldn't have gotten to the photography point at 18 because it just wasn't a thought. Like at 18, I was thinking, oh, I need to go out to California. I need to go and produce movies and things like that. And like, I wanted to do the 3D backdrops for movies. Like that was my goal. It wasn't being a photographer. It wasn't handling a camera. It wasn't taking pictures of houses. They were just like a thing around, Like
I think about it with like the fitness industry too. You think about COVID. When COVID hit, what was one of the first things that everybody bought? It was a Peloton. Everybody bought Pelotons. But online coaching was something that people go, how the hell do you coach somebody, do training through a screen? You're going to do it on a bike, aren't you? Right? You're going to stare at a screen and you're going to do workouts, or people are doing it off of YouTube. So you know, people would always say to me, how did you make money during COVID? It was like the same way that Peloton did. But had I been 5 years earlier, who knows if I came up with Peloton or I came up with Tonal, that mirror, the mirror.
I know.
I would have came up with
I've
those.
looked into that. Right? I saw the price. I was like,
if I would have came up with that, who knows where I would be at 30 years old now? Yeah. But you don't think about because the world wasn't there yet. It wasn't the world wasn't
there, and your experiences weren't
there.
Of
course not.
You know, like you need the experience in order to get to that point. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to tell myself with my 14-year-old is that like he needs certain experiences to realize that the path he's going down is not the best one. And he's not going to listen to me. You know, like, especially for me, like as a long distance dad, you know, it makes it even harder because like I can't show him on a daily basis, you know, like I can only tell him about it. And like, hey man, I saw this opportunity. Maybe this would be cool. Like, in one of my real estate media groups, there's a 14-year-old editor that's crushing it. And like, you know, like everybody else, the first couple ones, like, man.
Of course.
But like now he's gotten a couple months under his belt and like he's doing really good.
Out
and
the kinks and deal with the mistakes.
Yeah. And like, I'm like, dude, like you should be doing this. Like this would be a great opportunity, not even to make money, but just to learn. And to see.
What is he good at? Is he good? Does he have like, what's like his skills?
He likes soccer.
Okay.
That's kind of like the is all end all of like the things that he does outside of home is playing soccer. And like he likes to do the indoor, he likes to do outdoor, go up to the field and play. And you know, he has aspirations in order to be a soccer player.
Right.
But I'm telling him, I'm like, listen, as a person who loved to play soccer, played it all the way up until high school, and then like went nowhere with it. If this is something that you want to do, you got to take it a whole lot more serious than what you're doing. You know, and some part of that is like you need a personal coach. You know, like you need someone that's going to take you up to the field and not just like kicking the ball around with your friends. That's good. It's great that you're interacting with other people and playing soccer and doing indoor and things, but like if this is what you want to do, I'm not going to push you into it. I'm not saying like you have to be a professional soccer player one day or whatever, but if this is what you want to do, you got to get up and start running miles. You got to outwork every other person that's going to do it. You may not be the most skilled. No matter what camp you go to, no matter what ID thing that you visit, there's always going to be somebody more skilled than you are.
Exactly.
I saw kids with insane skills. And they still went nowhere. So it's like you just have to outwork every other person. And most of the time, like you see somebody on a professional team, they're just hard workers. They're not the best player, but they're doing it professionally. And very few people can say that they play a sport professionally that pays the bills and made them money for even 5 years of their life. You know, like you got that ability. You have that in you. Like he's fucking tall. And like he can play. But you also have to outwork every other person on the field. And like, you know, to an extent, he's got like dreams and aspirations of going into certain Ivy League schools. And I'm like, I'm not going to discourage you from doing that. But at the same time, like college isn't what it used to be. It's not what it was in 1985, where like, if you don't go to college, you're going to be a garbage man. Now it's like everything that you can learn at Stanford University, you can learn online for free.
Absolutely.
And it's like, then you could do it on your own.
And you don't have a huge bill hanging over
and you don't have a huge bill. And that's kind of what I'm trying to tell him and like send him these stories of like these other people that just started. Like we were saying before, it's like, just start. You know, like I told him, I'm like, oh, your stepdad's got a power washer. Go pick up the power washer and do every person on your block $20.
It's so simple today. It's so simple today.
It's so simple. I'm like, dude, I send him videos all the time, and then he's
just
like,
so much like,
and then he sends me back a meme from like soccer.
Bro,
like, just pick up the power washer, go power wash everybody's driveway for $20. One, you'll have money in your pocket. 2 months from now, you'll be charging $40. 3 months from now, you'll be charging $60. 2 years from now, you'll be able to buy your own car.
It's like you said, where, you know, social media, I don't care what anybody says, social media for the younger generation, even older generation, it's evil. Because, again, like you said before, you're only seeing the end result of a slew of hard work. Most of these power washing guys, we'll use that as an example, they just started with a truck and a power washer. And then they picked up a camera and they started recording their jobs. They started doing the B-reels and all of that stuff. Where now people are like, oh, now everyone's glued to their phone like this, and they're just watching this stuff. Maybe not picking up, oh, it's a good idea for a business, but no, now you're not only making money doing the job, you're making money off of videos on YouTube also. Yep. Like, there is so much money to be made. I'm still learning that part of it, because social media presence, the only way you really make money is if you're on there.
Right.
So consistency is key and all of that. And I'm still learning all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, the young generation today is like, you could have the world by the balls.
There's so much opportunity out there.
If you want it, it's there.
Yep.
And everybody could do the exact same job. Everyone could do the same thing. Influencers, all that stuff. Your story's different. You look different.
Yep.
Your daily life is different. Those 3 things will make you a millionaire if you start recording yourself doing it.
Yep.
It's amazing.
I get sucked into videos of things that I have zero interest in. Like, I watch car detailers detailing a car. I've spent 10 minutes, 10 legitimate minutes watching a guy detail a totally shit out of car.
You know what my favorite ones are? The carpet cleaning ones. Do you ever see those?
I see those all the time.
That is like, what do they call it? ASMR? Is that what it's called, right? That is I sit there and I'm like, oh my God, how did they do it? And it's like, it's a 10-minute video. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing?
There's so much opportunity out there. And that's just what I'm trying to like relay to him is that, like, if you just get up and do it, there's the opportunity there. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's miserable, maybe you hate it, and that's fine, but at least you figured it out.
Yeah.
You know, like you were saying with 16 jobs, I had a number of jobs in different industries for different things. And
did you learn something from each one of them?
I learned something.
That's what I'm saying.
Most of it was like what I don't want to do.
That's what you learned. That's what you learned.
And that was like, I had one good manager in my entire life, and that was at Apple Retail. And when this guy first got transferred into my store, we fucking hated each other.
Really?
We hated each other. I hated him and the way that he carried himself and everything that he said. And then there was like one time that we both kind of just like butted heads, and then we got over it, and we realized that the other person actually knows their shit. And then it was like, okay. And then he became one of my favorite managers. And every other manager, every other boss that I've had in my life has been 100% an example of who I don't want to be.
Well, that's what I was going to say to you. So I was literally going to ask you that question of, you know, with all the jobs that we both had, it's like now I'm not in the position where I have, you know, necessarily a staff.
Yeah.
You're a little bit different. You have people that work under you that you have hired to do things for you within your company. There's got to be, and now you understand it too, because where I'm going with this is like, even if you didn't learn anything from working for other people about the business of the job, you learn what kind of boss you will never be. And that's exactly what I say. I've had 2 that I've adored working for, and I miss working with them. But there are the rest of the 14 other bosses that I've had where every single one of them, I took bits and pieces of what I will never, ever be.
100%.
As a owner, as a leader, as a boss to somebody else. You know, can't let people walk on you, but there's a level of respect and everything that comes with it, with being a boss that all these other people did not grasp.
No.
They were only in it. They were only paying attention to the dollar. And if you were outside of that at all, you were punished for it. And it's insane.
But I also learned, you know, I'm not the perfect boss. There are a lot of times that I do make mistakes in terms of like delegating tasks or communication or giving somebody feedback at that time, which is something that I've struggled with, where it's like sometimes I won't give that feedback as immediate as I should. And, you know, then it comes out later and it's just like, man, like
it comes out ugly.
You've been doing this for a little while and like it's just annoying. And he's like, oh, like I had no idea. And it's like, all right, well, that's on me for not giving you that feedback at that time. But, you know, I've also learned what employees or what I'm looking for in an employee. You know, again, somebody similar to myself in that like curiosity. You know, like I need you to be curious and to say like, okay, you asked me to do task A. I did task A, no problem. But also I thought this might be cool. Or I came up with an idea of like the next time, maybe we should do this, you know, maybe this would help get another type of clientele.
Shows their interest in the job too.
But if I'm not getting that from somebody, then it almost tells me of like, you're only doing this job just for point A. And then you're not thinking about this job after. You know, and I'm looking for somebody that wants to be on this boat.
Definitely.
You know, like if you're just here to turn on the engine and then dip out, you know, like, yeah, we'll get a certain
result, but
yeah, we'll get a certain distance, but it's more of like, I want somebody that's going to help me steer this ship.
Definitely.
Like when there's an issue and I have to go up and deal with the sale, I need someone to be able to steer while I'm doing that.
Yep.
And then when I come back down, somebody that's like, oh, you know, I did this.
While you were gone,
While you were gone, like, I thought this would be a really good idea. I actually looked at our coordinates and like, all right, maybe we should have just shave a little bit to the right, you know, and those things are like, oh, all right, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, like take a little bit of something off of my plate.
More of an initiative. You want to see more of an initiative.
I want to see that initiative. And that's what the type of boss that I am. And again, I'm not perfect. I've made a number of mistakes. I've hired a number of people that didn't work out. And sometimes it's the same role, and sometimes it's just because I haven't communicated it well. Sometimes it's because they haven't communicated well. And sometimes it's just something that they're not really interested in doing. Like when we do the interview and they're like, yeah, no, I'm totally interested in this is a great opportunity. And then like the practice of it. And then like, they're just like, yeah, no, I don't really dig the real estate world. Like I'd rather do weddings or something like that. And like, that's fine. But just like, tell me ahead of time. So that way at least give me like an idea of like I had somebody quit on me the week that I was going to fire her. And I was like, great.
You did it for me.
All right. Saves that hard conversation.
It's
you
funny
know, she
too.
probably felt it coming because it was definitely like a few weeks of just like no communication almost. And then I think she was just like, yeah, no, I'm not, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm like, okay, great. Like, I was planning on getting rid of you anyway. You were costing too much and not doing the job and like taking 20 hours to do social media posts. And it's just like, if you're going to take 20 hours to do social media posts, there better be a lot of them. There better be a lot of them. They better be really the fucking best. And I shouldn't have to think about the next month of content. And it was like, oh, I took 20 hours and I did next week's. I'm like, I'm like, especially for a content company like myself, where like we're doing our page. I have 4 years of content that you can pull from. Nice photos, nice videos, nice listings, nice reels, nice
the work's done. Basically, the hardest part is done for you.
The hardest part is done. And like at most, you just have to like find a nice bathroom here, a nice bathroom there, and be like, oh, here's our favorite bathrooms of the month. You know, like
see, like what you deal with people working for you. Now, this is people probably would understand what I'm saying, and you know, when I take on a client, I'm hiring the client, right, in a way, because you're telling me that you want to change your life, whether it's life coaching, whether it's fitness. But I'll know right away how long you're going to be with me for. The people that are, you know, that already come through the door with excuses, you're not going to last. No. You're not going to last. You're not gonna want to show up. You don't want to do the work. But
I could have done this, but I got busy and
I'd rather go pay $10 for a gym membership that I'm never gonna use. That's not me. That's not me.
Right.
But the people that, like you said, the ones that have the initiative, the ones that come to you, basically hat in hand, saying, "I need help." From in my case, I need the help. I know for a fact that you'll be with me not forever, but for a long time. And that's what I want. Those I don't want the clients that flake out. I don't want them. I don't want the ones that show up for a week and they're like, and all of a sudden they ghost me. You paid me, but you ghosted me. It's like, now what do I do? Where'd you go? You know,
those are the worst because then you feel obligated to do more, but they're not reaching out.
They're not reaching out. So it's like I'm hanging on, and like you're gonna hit me with I want my money back, and it's like, well, you waited 2 months to tell me you weren't coming back. Now what do I do?
Right.
You know, so. But that's what I'm saying. Now that I'm in that position, as are you, you don't have to say yes to everybody.
No.
I can read you right away by what you're coming to the table with. If you're going to be someone that I want to work with. You know, and if I'm not, then I'm not. But same thing for you. If you're someone that wants a job, I'm not going to hire you if I don't believe that we're going to work well together, or I don't think you're really here for the long haul of what I'm looking to do.
You won't make it 6 months if I don't see something more than like just the bare minimum.
Exactly.
You know, like if you're here to do the bare minimum, if good enough is good enough for you, it's not good enough for me.
No way.
You know, like it might be good enough for some of my clients, but it's not good enough for me. And I see this boat being much bigger, much stronger than it is.
You're the face of it too.
And
so
that's what it is. Like if I'm selling this product of like, oh no, we do this, we do that, like, and then like I give it to my editor and he doesn't do that. or I constantly have to like
remind you of what we
yeah,
do.
like especially when everything is like written out in text.
Yep.
Like I don't want to have to remind you. I don't want to be the person, the boss that says, "Hey, did this get done?
Constantly
hey, did this get done? Hey, did that get done?"
Yep.
Like I didn't like it when bosses micromanage me. I don't want to micromanage you.
Yep.
You know, if you're not going to do it, then you're not going to do it. And I'll find somebody that is interested in doing it.
Yep.
You know, and that's just kind of what it comes down to. So I really appreciate you coming in.
Oh, thank you, brother. I really appreciate
being
being on
a
here.
really great conversation.
Yeah, for sure.